Okay, we'll bring this meeting to order for January the 9th, the regular council meeting. And I will do the land acknowledgement today because Councillor Dunn would like just another week for a little voice recovery. So the town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude for those whose territory we reside on. We will move into the agenda. 2.1, are there any additions or deletions? Could I please have some? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Hystad.
Your Worship, the only addition I would like to, once we've done our in cameras, to go in camera with council only, if possible, and I didn't know the proper procedure to do so.
Okay.
Do I add that?
Yeah, we'll call it, I guess, organizational scan.
Yeah, I believe it'd be organization.
Yeah.
I don't know the number though.
I don't either.
We'll have to look that up though. We'll include it though.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we'll have somebody please make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. And then we will move on to 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes from last Tuesday. When somebody's ready, I'll please have you make a motion to adopt those as presented.
I so move, Mayor Barclay, that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And then we'll move on to 4.1 and the action control. We'll just review that. If there's any questions about anything on here? Nothing? Okay, please have somebody make a motion to accept this as information. Councillor Bates.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. And then we will move on to 5.1 and I'll hand it over to Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So last week on the January 3rd regular council meeting, council was presented with a report outlining a conflict with the Fortis franchise fee that was discovered during budget deliberations. The increase from 15% to 17% was not completed. The report outlined the issue, the budget impact of the incompletion, the advertising requirements, and what motion is needed from council to rectify the issue. So there were a number of questions arising from the presentation with a request to have Fortis representative Dave Hunka attend tonight's council meeting to assist council's understanding of the report and to clarify the 2023 Fortis distribution rates and calculation of the 2022 shortfall. So Dave is here, so I would like to ask Dave from Fortis to come up and he will go through the questions that were submitted from yourselves at the last meeting and go over any additional questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers, and welcome, Dave, and thank you so much for coming today and be here to answer all the questions we had from last week. So.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the council and administration for having me down. I was watching last week when the questions were taking place and was kind of screaming at my computer saying, hey, I can help you on that one. I'll do my best to kind of go through what's kind of taken place here. I don't know how much time you want me to really spend on the percentage and the difference there, but I can give a quick rundown on that. And I think we can kind of go through that fairly quickly. So we were sent a copy from Erica on the initial email, which we didn't actually receive. And I did talk to our IT department. We went through and looked at our logs 2 days before, 1 day of, and then 2 days after. And we don't have any record of that actual email coming in. And this is something I talked to Todd and Erica about, and something for you to check with your IT department and your services to see where the email kind of got lost. Was it, we know we didn't see it on our side, but do you show it on your side, or did it go through your servers, no problem, and then hit the internet and then just disappear? Does that happen? Yeah, it can. It definitely can, for sure. But just like to be able to, that's as far as what we were able to find as far as that initial email, which also spurs the whole process off with Kayla, who's your SRM, and also Kelsey on my team that look after these types of changes. And feel free to ask questions as I kind of go along. So that didn't happen, and that's when, of course, when I had showed up at your budget meetings where I kind of came forward and said, actually, you're still at 15%, and was able to confirm with our billing department that, yes, that is true. It's still at 15%, not 17%. Followed from that, we've done a little bit of digging and stuff like this, and I think that I think we found where some of the confusion might be, because I know that when we had talked also, there was, when we were going through the notes for all the council meetings, we never saw any motions being passed. And that, of course, is needed for ARC approval. So we did, I think that, and I can bring up on the screen, I think, kind of share with what kind of took place there and where I think the error might have happened. And the reload, this is going to be on the other side. So this is coming from your council minutes, and just kind of highlighted the control and action, or the council action and control. But when you scroll down into the document, basically it says here the council approves the 2022 Fortis gas franchise fee increase to 17%, and then it says defeated below it. I think actually kind of what happened is there was a cut and paste just of the first part and not the part that it was defeated, because we did find that it was defeated earlier on, but not that there was ever a motion later on that was passed. And just to kind of see where it does show is when we get into the council resolution action control, you can kind of see that it's basically the same cut and paste, and why someone might think that was actually that a motion was passed. So that was my, for lack of better words, guess of where also there might have been added confusion around it. So just wanted to share that as far as what might have caused that. So, and what I'll do is I think I'll just, if there's no questions around that, I'll just jump into the initial confusion and also my apology for the letter that we sent out, which had our rates on it, which caused a lot of confusion, because specifically these two columns were not correct. They said December 2021 and then January 2022, which was last year's. All the other numbers are correct on the document, but my apologies. I don't have my apologies. It should never have gone out, but it did. And as soon as we actually heard that in your council meetings, we went and took a look, and we did a correction and sent it out via email right away to yourselves and actually all the municipalities, because every municipality got that. So again, my apologies. Now, one of the questions was, are we actually showing, when you look at the residential rate, that's going to $172.56. It's a $2.98 increase, or 1.8% increase. This year, not exactly why we started to show it as negative, but I guess it's less dollars in the person's pocket, I guess the mentality or the thought behind it. But I've had some feedback from a few municipalities, and we'll most likely be changing that back the other way just to make it look a little easier and more understandable. But that's, but the percentages basically and the dollar amounts are correct. And if you want, I can go into some of the other questions that was brought forward. Again, my apologies for that error. Okay, one of the questions was the difference being roughly 51 cents being the difference, and that's not accurate when it comes to the going from 15 to 17%. It's going to be a $3.45 increase. When you look at, and this is on basically a rate 11, a residential customer, that it's at 648 kilowatt hours per month, which is a normal typical home. With a franchise fee at 15% and then at 17%, the difference is roughly $3.45. And that's going on the latest rates for the ones that just got approved from the AUC. So then what I'll do is I'll jump to this one, which is I think one of the bigger questions was, what's the impact going to be to the municipality as far as the change from 15 to 17% and the fact that it didn't take place when it was expected. So in 2022, the actual franchise fee amount, and originally I guesstimated that the difference was around 20,000, and I'll show you how I got to that number. But actually, I just wanted to put forward too that Innisfail, like a lot of municipalities, as far as the consumption that was pre-COVID compared to post-COVID now, is actually your consumption's up over pre-COVID. So a lot of municipalities have recovered as far as the overall consumption. But there's still a few out there, but with Innisfail there was a slight increase. So, and this was the actual amount, and now this is what the amount was in the calculator that was sent, and that would have been what was used for budgeting, and that's when I talked to Erica, that she confirmed that this afternoon when we were talking, that is the amount. But it was also based upon, of course it is an estimate, but it was also based upon obviously a smaller amount. You actually did bring in more dollars, and there's the breakdown per month. Now the thing is, with the advertising had gone out, even when it did go out, it would not have met the timelines to meet the July implementation date. So it would have actually not taken effect until October. So that's why I did 9 months at the old rate and 3 months at the new rate. And basically being that, projected loss of 48,000, but because also consumption had increased and it's a moving target, it was more like $34,000 being the impact. Now, you could also just go from January to the end of the year, if you wanted to look at it that way. So there is different ways to look at it. Again, these are not the final numbers for 2022 because December, there's still billing corrections and things that are still taking place. So, yeah, I'll just open it up there because I imagine there's some questions around.
I guess through to Dave or Director Kennedy, so that our budget amount for 2022 is 1.454, right?
Mayor Barkley, no. So it would have been the 1,648. That was the budgeted number for 2022.
Okay. Okay, I was thinking that I saw 1.464 in our budget documents from the year before, but okay. Okay.
So you went with,
Oh, so the 1,648, we budgeted in 2022 for 17%. At budget, I know it was defeated originally, then when we passed budget is when we essentially passed the 17% increase. We didn't get an official motion for that. Yes, it was in 2021, in December of 2021. So when we did do our budget, we did budget for the full number, even though it should have been only for maybe the first 3 months or 6 months. We shouldn't have, right? We should have.
So is that typical, Dave, that we don't see the increase take effect until October of every year? So even for 2023, we're not going to see that increase take effect until this coming October?
no, so typically if everything had been able to be completed beforehand, then it would have been effective January 1st. But because not everything was done, it would have been April 1st would have been the next date. But even then, the advertising was basically done too late. So it would have not shown up until basically July 1st, is kind of what happened.
So what's going to happen this year? Like if we increase, when does that take effect?
So we're trying to put that forward for March 1st effective date.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they would be rushing this through to make sure it got through as quick as it could, yeah.
That's correct. Because one of the things that does come up is the AUC in their documentation around franchise fee changes, they look for specifically 45 days they want as far as notice. And that's part of Rule 29 is the rule, and I do have that up. Basically, I can bring that up real quick. And that's really where it talks about it here. The whole document really explains what you have to do as far as doing a franchise fee change. But this is where it talks about the 45 days and stuff like this. Because I know there was confusion on what I'd seen before in earlier documents from previous years that was kind of in the press that, you know, when we make changes, or typically is at the end of the year, but that's also when we do our rate changes. So there's a lot of different things that are going in and stuff like this. And it doesn't line up very well with a lot of municipalities when you're doing your final budgets.
I was just going to say that's why we've kind of delayed it right until budget, because you and Nat Gas is asking for it before budget, and you know, you don't know until you do the budget. So yeah.
And we're seeing, and we were talking about this earlier, we're seeing a lot more that are coming in early in the year doing a franchise percentage change or even mid-year because of that. And just because budgets now are a lot more scrutiny and a lot more work, and yeah.
So Councillor Bates.
Thank you for, so it's March 1st is the best we can do now, but I was going to, we got there with her questions, but I precisely remember that we defeated that because we hadn't gotten into budget yet, and we wanted the ability to get into budget, which is why the action control that you showed was defeated. And then I believe subsequently in the budget deliberations, it was moved into 17%, and then the budget was approved as a whole. So there probably wasn't a specific motion to that effect. So that's what I remember. The other questions I have is, so as we deliberated this year, our franchise fee was shown at 17, and we were even encouraged to consider moving it up to 19. And there were a whole lot of other municipalities whose franchise fees were shown. Is that a chart we got from Fortis? I'm asking Eric, I guess, and
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So it is something that Fortis publicizes that I go search out. I think the latest one was from earlier this year. They send it out, I think, a handful of times a year it gets updated. I'm not too sure.
The franchise calculator that we only provide once a year, and that's in September.
No, this is just your rider schedule, the rate
Oh.
rider schedule that just shows the percentages of all the other municipalities.
So, so there's basically two letters that come out. There's one that comes out in September when we do our actual application into the AUC for our following year's rates. We put that out there to let people know this is what we're asking for. Therefore, people, municipalities, the Alberta Municipalities Association or the RMA, whoever, can also intervene on our rates and say, no, they don't agree. So we put that out in September, usually around the 15th to the 17th. And then early December, we hope that we get an answer back from the AUC on those rates that we can communicate to all the municipalities. This year, I think it came in a little bit later. I think it came in literally just before Christmas, which is later than what we normally see. And when that happens, of course, it's a crunch for everyone. But that's what happened this year. On the franchise calculator itself, that goes also out in September to all the municipalities with your current franchise fee, which in this case we did have it at 15%. But again, I'll leave that there.
so the last question I have, just to try and personally understand franchise fee of electricity. I went through all my bills, and it seems like my electrical franchise fee has been every month for the last year has been approximately 30% of my use. So does the franchise fee charged each month directly relate to your usage?
There is a small portion that is going to be related to your usage, for sure. So the fee
But
is only.
do all of the factors ultimately head back to the usage, like the distribution, everything else? Because I simply just took my actual usage and then divided it by the actual franchise fee that I paid that month.
Yeah.
And it hardly ever varied from 30%. It's like 28 to 31 the whole
Yeah,
year.
depending upon what they wrap in that, they might have called that, like, so your retailer does your bill, so that's something that we don't actually put out there as the final bill. But sometimes they group in, like, system access fees being franchise fees, A1 rider would be another one, or any other type of fee that might be in there. So, and typically, when it comes to the franchise fee, just to be very clear, because I know that was one of your questions, is what is being actually charged? And specifically, it's being charged to your distribution and transmission charges only. That excludes riders, like transmission riders that are out there. Those are not part of that. Yes, there is GST that is applied to it, because I think that was another question I heard. So yes, but when it comes to your retailer charges, no. There is no franchise fee on that. Now, does consumption change your distribution and transmission charges? Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's what, so they're all tied together and
They
they
are.
do relate back to your usage.
They do.
And then the other thing I think I noticed on the chart that you put up that had the wrong years at the start, is that the percentage increase is higher on the lower usage. Just noted that. The 600 was kind of in the middle, and then there's a lower usage and a higher usage, and
Oh, sorry,
the one that, yeah,
the letter.
that baby. Yeah, you're just getting a better rate when you use more.
Yeah, it was just a smaller percentage, yeah. Yeah, that's what happened, that could, yeah.
Yeah, and as a consumer, as a consumer, not a counselor, it's so frustrating when I lock in and try and lower and lower and lower and I get nowhere. That's really what I see happening.
Yeah, with the franchise fees themselves, so, like municipalities as a whole, like when you look at this, the franchise agreement being approximately 10 years old, back then when we first started with this new agreement, we were roughly about $22 million, which is what we would collect on behalf of, at the time, about 160 franchise agreements that we have. Now, this year, I expect that we will have collected over $70 million on behalf of municipalities.
So do you know, Dave, how much of that is from municipalities like us increasing compared to the, I guess, the demand, the distribution and transmission fees increasing?
So that one would be a little harder for me just to say off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I can say that typically, like 10 years ago, we probably would have 3 or 4 increases at the end of the year. Not that big of a deal. Now we see probably 12 to 18 increases. And as I said before too, we're also seeing some during the mid-year or early part of the year also.
So what increases on,
Franchise fees, the percentage.
okay, but I'm asking, like, what about the distribution and transmission fees?
Oh.
How much have those gone up as well in that 10-year period?
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
cumulative. I would have to take a look.
I would like to know that.
Yeah, I can take a look at that. I know this last year, there was a lot of pressure on us to keep it as low as possible. But in previous years, yeah, it's been, 4.5% probably as an average. But I can take that one back and give you an exact answer to that.
Yeah, because I know, like, on my bill personally, my franchise fee last month was $9.60, so it's maybe, I don't know, 6-7% of the bill, in the total bill. So it's, the franchise fee itself is not huge, right? But
It's
the
the other
distribution transmission fees are like $70.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever it is, works out to, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, I just want to say, it's all how you look at it. I always look at my fees relative to my usage. And yeah, the franchise fee is a small portion of the whole bill, but I relate everything to the usage because that's what I'm doing is using, and that's the thing I have a small amount of control over. And we're not going to change the entire system at this council table, but that's how I look at it. And your statement of how much the franchise fees across the province have gone up is indicative to me that municipalities in general are using them as a tax. And it's something that I always speak against,
Yeah.
and you probably heard me if you monitored one of our, because, and it's exactly that way. We compare ourselves to somebody else and say, yeah, we got room to move again. And it's just a principle that I don't like.
It's one of the great challenges I think the municipalities have because you're really limited to, as far as your fee structure goes, I mean, or your income is through fees, user fees, franchise fees, and tax. You really don't have a whole lot of other areas where you can bring in additional revenue. But it does, I think, also show that, that you're not the only municipality that's faced with those exact same challenges. Everyone is.
Yeah, and some significantly sized buildings exempt from property tax too, right? Government buildings and stuff, so it's a way for them to contribute to the community as well. And
The other thing too, and Erica brought this up when we were talking earlier, and it's a very good point though, is when you have tax exempt properties, this is actually one way where you can get some revenue from those properties. One other thing I wanted to also show was I did send out a letter, and it was from the MSA on potential, they're looking to put a rate cap on the RRO, which is on the retail side. So what you're seeing here is just a quick example. So you can take a look and you can see what the January approved RRO rate is sitting at, which is pretty high, highest I've ever seen it. The price cap puts it in at 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is a price cap. There is the rebate, which is the $75 per month from the government for the next, I believe, 2 months, and then it drops down to $25 or $50. But then they're putting the cap on, and this will take place in between now and May, and then after that, it will be collected back over 21 months. So there is some short-term relief, but don't get me wrong, it's a deferral account. It's going to get paid back eventually. So just wanted to provide a bit of an update there on that as far as what that would look like for consumers.
what is the fixed rate right now? Do you know off the top of your head?
You mean like a competitive contract? I don't. If I were to guess, it's probably around 10 cents. But you can go to the UCA website and it will kind of put it there.
I'm just curious why somebody would be on the RRO other than they haven't got around to phoning
Yeah,
to change.
To be honest, I was at a customer event a while back where customers were bringing in their bills, and we have to be very careful because we're not allowed to push one retailer or another. I was just telling people, go to the UCA website and take a look, because there are some big savings that you can get there that are instantly. But I always tell people is when you're looking at something like that, what's the term of the agreement? What's the kilowatt hour charge? And if you wanted to cancel that contract, how do you get out of it? Is there any fee or any penalty, or can you just get 30 days notice and get out of it? Those are really important things that, we've been telling all the customers out there that those are things that they need to look at. Because as you can tell, the price difference there is massive.
Yeah, for sure. Any other questions?
Is there any other questions that council may have for Dave while he's here?
I think you've kind of answered everything we had from last week, Councillor Bates.
So I do have one more. So if we look forward, if we're passing budget typically middle of December, is that about right? When would we be looking at franchise fees being effective?
So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So we did discuss this earlier today. So if we are able to pass it second week in December, we likely can't advertise till January. If we get everything into Fortis by the end of January, we can go for like April 1st.
Okay.
If I may just add to
Yep,
that.
absolutely.
One of the things that I've taken away from what's taken place here, because we've never actually had anything like this happen before, is what we're gonna look to do is to actually put a communication out to all the municipalities with these key dates, with these key timelines around that. There are emails that go out throughout the year, but I think it's just one to kind of summarize these key dates. Like if you're going to, if you're not able to meet this timeline, this is when the next one will happen. So I know some of that's in the calculator, but not everyone sees that. So anyhow, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks.
I'm sure I'll be reaching out to you shortly. So.
And I'll get back to you with the question there on the
Yeah,
overall
no,
percentage
thank you.
increase.
Thank you again for coming today. We appreciate it.
No problem, thanks.
So Director Vickers, did you want to move? Do you have anything more to add, or?
No, just a few things. So we did advertise, Mayor Barkley, last week in the paper, and we will, it's already been booked, and we'll be advertising tomorrow in the paper. Should council not wish to proceed with the increase, we would have to look at other ways and do a budget adjustment about how to then now balance the budget, right? So that's it. I'll take any other discussion or questions that council may have, or?
Well, I'm going to ask somebody to make the recommended motion. Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barclay will make the motion that council approves the Fortis franchise fee increase to 17%.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, no, and I apologize, I was away last week, but we made the understand, like, we knew that it was gonna be 17% as is, right? So, for me, I look at this as, lessons learned, sitting around the table and how do we improve those checks and balances? But I think that, I would agree with Gavin in many ways that, it is a tax in many ways, on our citizens, and how do we, move forward the next budget? Because I think it's gonna get tighter, but appreciate all the work that's gone into this awkward moment. Thanks.
Nothing else? Okay, then I will ask who's in favor of the motion that we have on the table. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We will move on to 6.1 and the PACE transportation with Director Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we have a report today for council to explore the PACE bus service delivery as we transition from the Legion operations by this coming April. As we go through the discussion, the key question I think for council to keep in mind is the desired service level from the PACE transit service. Is it something that we want to maintain sort of as it currently operates, or is it something that we're looking to expand to be able to service more residents in the community? Transportation is a key component of community health and quality of life, and is a barrier for many residents. Our current service is similar to those offered in many other communities. That can be through a handy van society or that sort of a program with clientele limited typically to seniors with mobility issues. From there, we do see communities where the intent is to support the transportation needs of all residents. And we see those systems become more sophisticated and accessible to all residents, often through wider hours of service and no limitations on ridership. So as we're thinking about the service moving forward, we want to consider the wider context of community transportation and what options exist to our residents. So currently, PACE operations are Monday to Friday. There is currently no weekend service. Council will recall you approved discontinuing the Friday evening and Saturday service back in November, which came into effect January 1st. Sunday has been removed by the Legion. My understanding is to not having available drivers. So currently the service is available Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. We have had a few calls over the last week, essentially, wondering about the resumption of that service and when those hours may change. Essentially, we've been telling people that we are in the process of this transition, and we'll be looking at service hours of operation as we move forward. So again, PACE vehicles currently average between 6 and 8 in-town trips per day and 1 to 2 out-of-town trips per week, largely to Red Deer. The Legion currently employs 1 full-time driver coordinator with 2, could have 3 part-time drivers, though with the one van being down, it's certainly been slower. This driver coordinator takes all calls both during and outside of regular operational hours. So the next page of the report gives just an overview of how services are provided in other communities, what services are available. So you can see there's a wide range from communities like Carstairs, where there's basically just a volunteer driver program where they attempt to help people where they can. A lot in that sort of handy van society type of model, Camrose, Ponoka, Stettler, that are operating just on an on-demand. Those programs typically are limited to whether it's 50 plus, 60 plus, or those with mobility issues. And then once you get into some of the larger communities to, Black Falls, Cochrane, Okotoks, where you start to see some of that on-demand service and being available to individuals throughout the community with no restrictions associated to age or mobility. So administration has identified 2 general options for how we can move forward with the provision of the service. Essentially, option 1 being town operation of the service. So the town would move to employ drivers and to support staff. Town would continue to insure and register the vehicles, provide dispatch services, training, health and safety would all be provided essentially to town employees. The second option being a contracted service where the town would lease our current PACE vehicles to a third-party contractor for a nominal sum. The contractor would then provide operation of the vehicles, train staff, telephone and digital booking services and dispatch, cover the costs for registration, and any associated equipment for the drivers, so phones or tablets. Under both options, repairs and maintenance and fuel costs would remain the responsibility of the town. And under both options, fare revenue would come directly back to the town. So our anticipated outcomes, and this I guess is somewhat from the administrative perspective, and council can direct us otherwise, is to enhance access and usage of the PACE service through increased marketing and focused bookings and dispatch. Transportation is a key component of an age-friendly and sustainable community, and improved access and efficiency will allow more residents to benefit from the investments that have been made in our PACE vehicles. Current PACE operations have largely been focused on seniors and other individuals with mobility issues. The service, however, is not limited to these individuals, but could see wider usage if more widely promoted. The vehicles primarily operate in town, but are available for out-of-town appointments as well as out-of-town residents. The town has struggled with a consistent presence of a quality available taxi service. And more accessible service may lessen that gap that we see as well. So the next page has a breakdown essentially of monthly costs. When it comes down to it, so we base this on 50 operational hours. So this is essentially the Monday to Friday and the Sunday service that council had approved a month or so ago. It's difficult to project on the hours depending on how that ends up being structured, whether they're full-time or part-time. We do anticipate the need for administrative support and then the associated additional costs with those employees. One of the key components between the two options that we see is backup coverage. So recruitment and backup drivers and vehicles could be challenging and costly. Contract services would ensure driver coverage for illness, recruitment and training, as well as vehicle coverage in the event of a breakdown, which we're currently experiencing. If we were in the situation where we didn't have the second PACE vehicle that we had earlier this year, we'd be, I think, close to 3 months that the other vehicle has been down. So that would have been a major gap in service had we not had the second vehicle as backup. So the booking process, would be a call through the town office. We'll have to work out, I believe the current driver basically will answer his phone whenever he's available. So our office being open Monday to Friday, how that works through an after-hours service. A contracted service would provide a call center for bookings, as well as an app that people can book directly from their phones. As for data management, so currently paper logs are submitted from the Legion to administration, and we have started to convert those into spreadsheets to be able to get a little bit better idea of the number of trips, where they're going, that sort of thing. The contracted service offers sort of real-time information on location of vehicles, booking success rates, routes, peak times, basically any information we could want to know about the trips. They could provide that to allow us to make some more informed decisions about things like hours of service, where the demand is, what types of, even the type of vehicles that will be the best option for the community. And then payment options, so likely we would have to have cash to the driver or tickets purchased at the town office under option 1. Option 2 offers essentially the same, but also being able to book your rides through the in-app online service. So administration supports the consideration of option 2 for a 1-year term or pilot. Although council has expressed the desire to operate the service internally, it's the opinion of staff that the expertise of the contracted service may greatly improve our service delivery and increase ridership. The contractor has indicated desire to maintain current drivers on staff if possible to support service continuity. It is recommended that council invite Southland Prairie Bus Lines, who sort of, for council's information, we had issued an RFP and they were the only group to submit to that RFP for a future AMP meeting to allow them to demonstrate and explain how the services could be offered in Innisfail. This will provide council an opportunity to learn directly how the service could be operated and pose any questions for concern. So at this time, we're just asking that council accept the report as information, and if council is interested in having a representative from Southland join us at a future meeting to discuss further.
Yeah, so we'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
Director Jenkins, and so questions, anybody? I guess I would definitely like to see Southland Prairie come in and do a presentation. Do you think, Director Jenkins, that you would also have the spreadsheets available in the near future for ridership numbers?
Yep, we have those.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had,
Yeah.
actually had the last, I
Okay.
think, 2 months, paper logs submitted today,
Maybe
so.
share those at the same
Yep.
time that Prairie's here. And Councillor Bates?
I'd be in favor of that. I'm also very curious, what has taken that one bus down for that long?
The motor is gone in it, and apparently they don't make crate motors anymore, so you can't just take one out and put a new one in, so they've had to take it out and get it fixed.
Thank you.
Yeah, no current update as to when it may be back.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Jenkins. I'm wondering on the budget comparison, is there going to be any time required of our town staff with the communication and oversight of that contract?
Yeah, similar to our work with the Legion would be, overseeing that, those agreements, and helping with the promotion of the service, essentially.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Jenkins. I certainly support having a presentation. Just from, part of our challenge in Innisfail as we grow, and we are growing, is we are also spreading out. And so having a transportation strategy for our citizens is going to be really important, no matter, kind of how we're managing this. The lack of taxi service, reliable taxi service, is really a problem. It's the people that are struggling outside the box. Like, the data will give us box relative to usership, or give us data relative to usership, but it's the other people that, that have kids that only have one vehicle and it's 30 below and they can't get their car to start or whatever. And I just think that as council, we need to grapple with transportation for our citizens as a whole, and then how we can continue to serve the vulnerable people in our community as well. So yeah, I would like to have that presentation, but then some sort of an indication at some point in the future relative to taxi or ride sharing or Uber or whatever the heck it is that we can get started. People can't get around at night, late at night. We have people driving that shouldn't be driving, and we know that. So, but thanks for bringing this to us today.
Is this cost, Director Jenkins, or Vickers, I will ask, like a little bit higher than what we had in budget? Do we have, was it around 96,000 that we had in?
So I'm not sure what we had in the line. Yeah, 96.
Something like that.
Yeah, 88 is what we've been paying to the Legion. Again, we likely won't be operational with this till probably March or April. So that would still likely be within the realm of reality on getting started. And again, depending on the availability of the second bus, how quickly that one's operational as well. And we could work with that contractor on those hours as well.
Sure.
As to whether it's.
Is there a timeline on the second bus?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our town mechanic was up a week or so ago,
Okay.
and yeah, there was nothing
Nothing. Okay.
happening yet.
Okay, Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. To Director Jenkins, I guess my question would be is, say if we didn't go externally and we went internally, do you know how much time and that would take to run a bus like that, or those buses?
So we're attempting, the report attempts to estimate that. We are identifying that we would need administrative support, as well as identifying management oversight. Again, this isn't a department we've necessarily had a lot of focus on. Our FCSS staff have taken part in the transportation committee, largely because the populations they serve are the ones that utilize the transportation service, not necessarily because they're experts in the delivery of transportation services. So it will, if it does become an internal function, that will be something we'll have to consider as to what and who is best suited to manage that function.
Okay. Was there any, and I guess another question is there any thought if a private contractor comes in utilizing or working with, towns like Penhold or Springbrook, if people are going to Red Deer, if there's more trips to Red Deer, trying to work with partnerships that way on a move forward basis?
I think the contractor route with the data would really help us. I know when we went to purchase the second PACE van, going to those neighboring communities, but not really having a lot of sound data as to how many of their residents are actually accessing the service and on what kind of basis, where if we're able to make the case that, yeah, we're getting requests from Bowden, 2-3 times a day, what kind of ways can we work together to offer it across the area?
Yeah. Okay, no, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, I will make a motion that we invite Prairie Bus Lines to come to a future A&P meeting, do a presentation to us. Any questions about that? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then have somebody to accept the report as information.
Mayor Barkley, I would make the motion that council accept the report as information.
Any further comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so sounds good. It's only January, so we have time. No, it sounds good. Thank you for that, Director Jenkins. It's interesting. I'm pleased to see that, they would employ the current people that are driving as well. That's important. So anyway, we'll see where it goes. Okay. So we will move into correspondence and information next. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? Went over the building permit stats. Interesting. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Jenkins. Can you just maybe very briefly go over the town building permit stats for 2022? I'm recognizing, and maybe I'm reading the graph wrong, but it looks like we're below 2021. And
Yeah,
as you drive around, there's lots of stuff going on, like.
for sure. So we can, Kara, if you want to just go down to that spreadsheet. So overall for 2022, the total building permit value was just over $7 million, which is down from 2021 where we were at 11.2 million. So if you can see right up in the upper right corner, sort of the total values. So in terms of residential permits, so new house permits, we had 7 in 2022, whereas we had 20 in 2021. So we were down on new detached dwelling starts. The other one that jumps out at me is the garages renovations, etc. So we had 10 permits this year, totaling just shy of $500,000, where in previous years we had 44, 48. Much lower activity on that sort of renovations and garages. My guess would be a function of the cost of building materials that people, the costs were too high and they thought, you know what, we'll wait and put that off for another year. Where actually as you go across, commercial, overall commercial permit value, we were down a bit. We had 8 permits, but lower value than we've seen in previous years, though our industrial permits were quite a bit higher than we've seen in other years. So overall, yes, we were down in 2022 compared to 2021. And that graph sort of shows you going back to 2012, just 2012. And we exclude the institutional permits from the graph just because they tend to skew the numbers. If all of a sudden the school does a big project or Autumn Grove gets built, it'll change the permit value substantially in 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bates?
Just trying to personally analyze it too, and I would assume 2021 have had the day dental building in it?
Yes.
And so that's part of it. And I guess the scary thing, would the 7 housing starts have our 4?
That would be, ours would be 4 of those, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, when I looked at the data, it kind of makes sense though with interest rates kicking in there too. So I can't see us being the same as previous year. So that's how I was looking at it, but.
Okay, anything else under the correspondence? Okay, I'll have somebody make a motion, please, to accept the correspondence and information as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move into council committee reports. We'll start with Councillor Wing today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Not a lot to report. I did participate in the Energy Futures Lab Vision Working Group meeting last week, talking, sort of setting the context for the work that the Energy Futures Lab will focus on as we move forward. So that was interesting. This coming week, the library board is starting to, is having an informal meeting, first of all, to start their plan of service work. Plan of service is a five-year plan that the government of Alberta requires. We are giving ourselves a year, almost a year, to get it done, so we'll be doing some consultation work, working with the town staff around some of that as well. And then, yeah, chamber board meeting this week as well, so looking forward to a busy January as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Also a very light week. I had one committee meeting and it was with FCSS, and we reviewed all the applications for the upcoming grants, and they'll be coming forth here in the near future to council for resolution. So where the grants went and the dollar amount. So it was an interesting process. Of course, we had lots of applications for lots of money, and we had big cutbacks with our FCSS fund. So it was a long meeting, but very, very fruitful. So they'll be coming to council for resolution, I would think, pretty quick. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Until Friday, I was unable to leave my home due to COVID, but at 3 o'clock I tested negative and attended the hockey game at the arena, which was wonderful to see so many people from our town and surrounding areas out to support that, and looking forward to just getting back on track for 2023. Thanks.
Okay, I'm glad you're feeling better. Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It was a quiet week last week as well, and a couple of functions looking forward to this week. Thank you.
Councillor Heistad.
Thanks, Your Worship. I had the village meeting last week, as well as the hockey game, which was great. It was a really good event. I had a lot of fun at that, actually. And I was cheering for the firefighters, just so you know, Johnny. And actually, this week we have, I've got on my calendar, Revive the County, and I think we have an administrative opportunity, learning opportunity this week as well on the Friday, so thanks.
Anything happening at the Historical Village meeting?
Actually, it was anything crazy, not too crazy. It was like
Crazy?
a
Oh, that's good.
20-minute meeting. It was probably the shortest meeting I've ever had with them, so not a lot to report. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bates.
Didn't really have a whole lot kick in last week yet on the council basis. I did go to the Fire RCMP game. It was tremendous. The rink was packed and totally family friendly. I think the RCMP had a larger talent pool to recruit from, but I think in general the firefighters had as big a cheering section. This week, the county engagement and planning and development meeting. That's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh, excuse me, got one more.
carry on.
Having done this, I think it was very valuable to do this with Fortis. I think we should do it with ATCO. Because as I went through my personal bills, the franchise fee is even a bigger piece than the electrical. And in fact, 5 months of the year, the franchise fee was bigger than my usage. So I think I'd like to understand it as well as I think I understand Fortis now. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do believe that ATCO is going to be coming at some point in time, maybe not here, but I thought maybe Todd C.O. Becker was arranging a meeting with them at some point in time, so.
I can say we meet with ACO every year, so yeah, that's no problem. We can definitely request them to come forward.
I think we talked about having dinner or something with them. We were going to do it at Alberta Municipalities Convention, and then we didn't, and so we going to put it into this year. So I was participated in the Innisfail Energy Hub Vision Working Group last week. Also attended the RCMP firefighter game on Friday night. Great to see 1,487 pounds donated for the Innisfail Food Bank that evening. And I want to give a big shout out to Rhonda Turnquist, who was integral at organizing that whole event. And it was just a tremendous evening, and standing room only basically is what it was at the arena. So great to see, and look forward to next year as well. And this week, Red Deer County meeting on Wednesday evening, and then MCCAC, a new initiative they have. I'm participating in a climate leadership council, so that's elected officials from all across the province in that. And then Friday is our planning and development session with the lawyer coming down from Edmonton, Kelsey. So looking forward to that as well. So we will now go into upcoming events.
I'm wondering, Your Worship, if you could give us a little more information on that Climate Leadership Council as to how it's
Well, I
being
wish I
done.
could. Yeah, I don't know. There's MCCAC put out a request to apply, so there's a lot of people on it. I'm thinking maybe 20, 25-ish sort of thing. So I'm not sure. The first meeting is on Zoom this week. And I think it's just to kind of discuss climate opportunities going forward, energy innovation, that kind of thing, and all the stuff that MCCAC does, of course, with their work with municipalities across the province. So I will know more next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here's all the events for the upcoming week. I'll just have somebody make a motion to accept this as information, please.
Mayor
Councillor
Barclay
Dunham.
will make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and then we will have a motion to go in camera, please.
I'll move that we go in camera, Mayor Barclay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Okay, thank you.